What if your retirement savings could actually include Bitcoin? Seriously. In one US state, that's not a what if anymore. Today, we're going to break down a brand new law that could totally change the future of your 401k. So, back in early March 2026, something kind of revolutionary happened. Indiana's Governor Mike Braun, he signed this piece of legislation that, officially built a bridge between the wild, fast-moving world of crypto and the super traditional, steady world of public pensions. So just picture this for a second. What if you could log into your retirement account and right there, next to all your stocks and bonds, you see an option to invest in crypto? Well, for public employees in Indiana, that question is about to become a reality. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We are talking about House Bill 1042. The official name is the Regulation and Investment of Cryptocurrency Act. And get this isn't just some minor bill. It makes Indiana the very first state in the entire country to pass something this big. Okay, let's dive in. At its core, the law says that state-run retirement plans, for folks like teachers and government workers, they have to give them a way to invest in crypto. This is a huge signal of what people are calling institutional normalization. Basically, crypto's growing up. It's moving from the fringes right into the mainstream financial world. But how does it really work? Let's get into the mechanics of this, because the details here are what make it so fascinating. And honestly, it's not quite what you might think. Now, this right here is probably the most important thing to understand. There is a huge misconception floating around. The state of Indiana is not taking public pension money and gambling it on Bitcoin. Not at all. Instead, this is all about giving people a choice. It lets employees decide for themselves if they want to put some of their own retirement funds into crypto through a special kind of account. The state itself isn't taking on the risk. So here's how it's all going to go down. By July of 2027, these retirement plans have to offer what's called a self-directed brokerage window. You can just think of it like a special portal inside your main retirement account that opens up more investment options. And through that portal, an employee can choose to invest in regulated things like Bitcoin ETFs, which, trade on major stock exchanges just like a regular stock. The law is also pretty specific about what's not allowed. Any funds based on stablecoins are off the table. So why is this such a big deal? Well, analysts estimate that if just a tiny little 1% of all retirement funds in the US moved into crypto, it could unleash over $120 billion of new money into the market. That right there is why Wall Street is paying very, very close attention to what's happening in Indiana. But HB 1042 is way more than just about retirement accounts. A huge part of this law is basically a Bitcoin Bill of Rights for every single person in Indiana, and it gives them some really unprecedented legal protections. This is really a foundational framework. Let's break it down real quick. First, no special crypto taxes. It gets treated just like any other financial asset. Second, it legally protects your right to self-custody, which means you have the explicit right to hold your own crypto in your own digital wallet, no middleman needed. Third, it says public agencies can't just ban people from using crypto as payment. And finally, it protects crypto miners from getting unfairly shut down by local zoning laws. It's the whole shebang. And it's super important to remember Indiana isn't making this move in a vacuum. Let's zoom out a bit and look at the national picture, because this whole thing builds on a much larger trend that's been picking up steam for over a year. And this timeline really tells this story, doesn't it? It kind of started at the federal level in 2025 with executive orders setting up a national Bitcoin reserve. Then, the states started to jump on board. Texas created its own reserve fund that June. Then Missouri pushed a similar bill. So Indiana's law is really just the next logical step in this whole progression, moving from government reserves to individual retirement access. And it's not just about passing new laws. Other states are already, putting their money where their mouth is. The state of Wisconsin, for example, already holds over $300 million in Bitcoin ETFs in its investment portfolio. Michigan's holding about $45 million in both Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. You can't deny the trend. Of course, not everyone thinks this is a great idea. And that brings us to the central debate here. Is this a smart move toward financial freedom, or is it a potentially foolish risk for retirement savers? And there's this really fascinating paradox happening in Indiana that makes everything even more complicated. So the argument for this law is really all about diversification and personal freedom. Analysts like Arslan Butt see it as a pretty smart move politically. The state gets to offer access to what some people call digital gold, a hedge against inflation, without actually putting public money on the line. For people who believe in financial choice, it's a total win-win. But the counter-argument is just as powerful.
The Indiana public retirement system itself has said, hey, we'd want really clear warnings about the insane price swings. And regulators like the SEC have said over and over again that crypto markets are still vulnerable to fraud and manipulation. It's a high-risk, high-reward world, and the big question is whether it belongs anywhere near someone's retirement plan.
And that brings us to the paradox, the big head-scratcher. At the exact same time, Indiana is rolling out the red carpet for crypto and retirement plans, the state legislature is pushing a completely different bill to do something that seems to fly directly in the face of all of that. Yep, you heard that right. House Bill 1116 would ban cryptocurrency ATMs completely, making it an illegal act to operate one in the state. It just goes to show you how messy and contradictory the path to regulation can be. On one hand, you've got embrace it as a sophisticated investment, and on the other, ban a common way people access it because it could be a tool for scams. It's wild. So, what does this all mean? Indiana's moves, both for and against crypto, they perfectly capture this moment in time. We're literally watching a technology with massive potential and massive risk try to work its way into the very fabric of our financial system. And the question this all leaves us with is this the beginning of a whole new era for how we all save? Or is it a cautionary tale just waiting to be written? The one thing we know for sure is that your 401k may never look the same again.